Yeah, well, we'll leave that topic there because we could probably talk about radios all night. We'll move on to topic number 2 then. Is FPV becoming locked behind a paywall, or is there just kind of too much gatekeeping in FPV between patrons, kind of exclusive content that you'll see on some YouTube videos, and kind of the asking people for tips and tricks on their long range setup, only to be told no? What do you think of that kind of topic, Dave?
I want to start with an apology about this topic in advance. This is not directed at anyone, any YouTuber, any influencer, anything. This is just an observation over time and seeing people progress from learning to being experts, from students like kids and stuff, right through the process. And I've spent a lot of time viewing it from like the outside looking in, because I've always been an antisocial person, creating content for other companies to use and stuff instead of putting my own name to it. And yeah, looking at it from, I've signed up to a couple of Patreons and stuff like that because it's great. The information they do, the testing they do, the investment that they do in just building up test rigs and stuff like that, and the knowledge that they put into things is immense. It going and testing, 60 different ESCs, going and testing 100 different motors and stuff like that, and like your time. And someone's trying to make a career out of that. Most trades in Australia are $60 an hour. And, for someone to go and feed a family and stuff, 100%. If they're good at what they do and they create value for others, 100%. But it's about that key thing of creating value for others. But when something's not value and people say they have to have that or they need that, a subscription to be able to access something that doesn't actually give anything back. Do you know what I mean? Like, Netflix in Australia gets worse and worse. We pay for it, but there's less and less content on there. At least with Amazon Prime, we get free shipping. You get something value with it. Some of the other subscriptions are like, I didn't even know there was FPV subscriptions to some things and stuff like that. The social media scene, though, like, I understand everyone wants to feel validated and important, and everyone's got really cool ideas and different opinions of frames and stuff like that, and technical know-how. And it's all about being kind and tolerant towards each other. And if you've been doing it for years and years and you're very good at it, I'm sure you get tired of 1,000 people, literally 1,000 people asking you the same question over and over and over. And if you've spent thousands of dollars working out how to do something, cool, good on you. But like, there needs to be some kind of balance format or some kind of metric for it, I think. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's kind of, again, it's like anything, it's striking, and what you've said, it's like striking the balance. For me, this is a hobby, and we keep hearing the word community being kind of banded around the FPV community. And there's nothing very community around gatekeeping of information, of, me uploading a video of how I flew 30 kilometers and somebody asking, how did you do that? And saying, well, I'm not going to tell you unless you give me money. That's not really in the community spirit. So it's kind of like the first topic where we've discussed the community aspect seems to be moving away from the hobby, and it seems to be more commercialized. Maybe that's just the nature of things, but it's like it's the balance. It's just trying to strike the balance. It's inevitable that people will try and make money out of FPV, whether that's in a war situation or a YouTuber wanting to feed his family because they've tested 1,000 motors over the course of 2 weeks, and that's fine. But it's I hope we just don't lose that community spirit and that community aspect.
I can
for the sake of it.
I can share one thing with you, the recent experience, and I can share this because it's already out in the market. I had the privilege of being involved with a certain product testing of a product, and there was a group of us doing it. So you'd think that we would all be in a community. And my first thing I did, I tested everything with stock antennas, testing a VTX and the goggles with stock antennas, because what is the first-time user going to be using stock antennas? But all the pros are going and using $1,000 sets of antennas. And when you go and ask them what they're using, A, they wouldn't tell you, or B, it's hugely expensive antennas and stuff. And that's where people come unstuck of, they see guys going in ridiculous distances and they're still there with their standard stubbies and stuff on and wonder why they can't achieve the same thing. But anyway, I've had my say on this topic and I've already apologised in advance. So I'm leaving this.
Slowly back away, Dave. Back away.
I think. Sorry, Stace, you go on.
Go, Tristan. Go ahead, Tristan.
Well, I was just going to point out. I mean, we talk about FPV community, and certainly Facebook is a pretty good sort of example of this, possibly, that I'm looking for. It's certainly the first social media platform that I got into when I started FPV and seeing around and joining groups and that. And you join these groups, and they tend to be full of a couple of people who are posting all the time, and replying, to everything all around, everything. They tend to be dominated by a couple of characters who generally don't know what they're talking about, or are just really after sort of self-promotion and posting their, everyone loves to see people's flight videos, right? But goodness me, some of these are just full of, flight videos with not much information behind them. And it's really hard to find information there. So what do? You ask the question. You say, I want to know this. Can someone help me? And then you just get bombarded by by people going, oh, this has been asked 1,000 times, and just do a search or that sort of thing. So I mean, it goes back to what you were saying, Tom. I think people have been in this hobby a long time, get frustrated by the same question getting asked and asked and asked. But goodness me, I mean, this is this person's first sort of foray into it. I mean, if you want to have a community that's, sort of feels welcoming, then you've got to just bite your bottom lip and, be as helpful as you can, I think, because it's really hard to find information if you don't know where to look for it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. It needs good moderation. I mean, these a good moderated, sort of social media forum or whatever is needed. Well, good moderation, I think.
Stace, what do you have to say about it? Like, you've done the hard yards. Please share with us.
Yeah. So I've been in the hobby for a while. I've been in a lot of the Facebook groups, all that kind of stuff for a while. Although recently I've basically nixed all of that stuff because, like Tristan was saying, like it gets very toxic very quickly with the people who have been in the hobby for a long time, who know a lot of stuff, and they get very frustrated with the people who don't know a lot of stuff. And you have a few people who are very good at explaining things. They kind of get drowned out from all the other noise. So if you try to be helpful, they get the community thing of it becomes very, very toxic. And so kind of going to the paywall thing I was talking about earlier, I can see where people would be willing to pay money for good information. So like I see them regularly on, Bardwell's live streams. People do super chats and stuff. And a lot of times they will pay money just so they can get an answer to a very simple question that you could find the answer if you know exactly how to Google it. But the thing, when you go to Google, people say, go Google it. And you go Google the question and you get 500 different responses, and they're all different, different answers. And the right one's in there somewhere. But how do you know when you're starting out, like which one is the right one, and who has the time to go try all these 500 different ways of fixing problem X, Y, or Z? And so they'll find someone who is well known, like Bardwell, and they're like, I will give him a couple of bucks to get an answer, and he's more than happy to help them. And I mean, but on the flip side of that, though, he's more than happy to help people a lot of times, even without being paid. I've sent him questions over the years just on the email and stuff, and I may not get an immediate response, but he will respond and usually has pretty good information, or at least a point to start, which, to his credit, I think that's great that he takes the time to answer questions without being paid for it, as well as, but he gives priority to people who do pay. So, I mean, there's a balance for sure with that stuff, but man, so many of the communities are so toxic. I got tired of being in all of them. Like I would post videos occasionally, or I would post questions, or I would try to be helpful in those. And there's so much toxic stuff with drama that'll start up about, this company, that company. And, we've all been a part of, we've all contributed to it in some form or fashion. I know I have. And so I kind of got, for myself, I had to like detox from all of it and like just nix it, which is, disconnects you from the community in a big way, because now you're not up on all the latest, everything that's kind of going on. You have to go search it out. But that for me, I had to do this for my mental health, because
sure.
I'm a person who likes to argue, and so when I was in high school, I had the nickname Captain Complain, because I would complain about everything and I would argue with everybody about everything. And so I have that nature to do that and to want to be right or whatever, and so I had to like detox myself from that stuff and take a step back. And
it's really hard work, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really hard work.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Tom, you've got a beep button, don't you?
A beep button?
Yeah, like you've got a sensor button somewhere, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
I can find it. Go for it.
I know exactly where you're coming from that point of view, because I just don't like social media stuff. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing my own things. I get my kicks out of really helping people and stuff like that, and seeing progression with other people. And the reason I agreed to do this thing with you guys, it's a complete piss take. It's a social sit back of going, this is our views. Mm-hmm. You don't have to agree with them. The four of us don't have to agree with each other. It's just a common collective. Let's mash it all together. But the nail in the coffin for racing for me was every race event, we would pay race fees. And the top tier guys would want to, or the club committee would buy prizes for the fastest pilots, or invest in streaming equipment, or, stuff like that, better cameras, better streaming equipment. And it's like, cool, how about we actually go and build some beginner drones so people that are driving by can come and have a go. Yeah. Have a couple of club drones and stuff. But no, they were more interested in showcasing themselves than others.
The knowledge should filter downwards to the grassroots, rather than the guys at the top being held even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it came to the likes of the Facebook groups, and Stacey, you were saying how you would ask a question and then it would immediately be shot down and it would just become toxic. In the end, I kind of took matters into my own hands with Walksnail and built the Walksnail wiki website. Now, it is far from the most professional website out there, but I just took information and answers to questions. So same questions would be asked time and time again, and the same kind of people would answer them, and eventually it becomes a common denominator of what the answer is. And I just collected all of that information, stuff that we kind of found out along the way when I was part of the testing group, and what might be obvious answers to us, took that, took other answers that people were replying to requests for information, and just gathered it all together in the one place, because it was getting frustrating answering the same question over and over again. And there were times where I would have, about to type something and think to myself, Don't be that guy. You know, you're about to be the guy that you're annoyed of. So I kind of thought, well, what do I do about this? So I thought, you know what, I'll just, rather than going, oh, this has been answered 100 million times, I can now just paste a link to the topic on the website, and then they can read about it, and they may find other answers to other questions that they haven't even got around to asking yet.
Yeah, you can respond a whole lot nicer and say, hey, there's this great website that's out there. It's got all this great information. I think the answer that you need is there. You might find some other stuff that you need to. And then it's not coming off as like, yeah, this has been asked a million times. Here's your answer. That, you know.
Yeah, that's it. And that's how I find for myself, the best way to kind of respond to all of that. Just put all the information that's known. Get other people to add their information. You know, it's a community. It's a collective. Different people have, and I've just taken what they've said or what they've written and put it onto that website, so everybody can kind of go. Because when Walksnail did arrive, there were so many questions, so many head scratching going on with it. People likened it to DJI, but it doesn't work the same as DJI. So many people trying to fly far, fly behind a tree and trying to work out what's the best way to set this up. Same questions were being asked time and time again. Rather than respond to 1,000 questions, I thought I'll just fire it all into a website and point people to that.